What's up, everybody? It's the waitingfornextyear.com podcast. Sunday night, and there is plenty to talk about because Mark Shapiro is expected to be announced president of the Toronto Blue Jays. Ken Rosenthal and various other people on the Twitter have confirmed, or their sources are telling them. And so we've covered it on Waiting for Next Year, and it certainly appears to be true that Mark Shapiro, after 23 years with the Cleveland Indians in various capacities, most recently as president, will now be taking that job in Toronto. Anthony Castrovent says it's for a lot of loonies, which is Canadian money. The silence was deafening. That's how we opened our post at Waiting for Next Year. And it's true. The silence was deafening. Ever since these rumors came out, Mark Shapiro said he wouldn't comment on them. But then all of a sudden, reporters ask Terry Francona about it. Terry Francona says, that I do have that clause in my contract saying that, I have some options if Mark Shapiro and Chris Antonetti aren't here. But I wouldn't really use those. And by the time he said that he wouldn't really use those and that he went out of his way to say that, it certainly seemed to portend, or at least indicate, that Mark Shapiro might be actually taking that job and leaving. And it's weird because I get a lot of the loudest feedback is not always indicative of the majority of the feedback. And the loudest feedback obviously is very happy. They want Mark Shapiro gone, very happy that he's gone. I don't really feel that way. I do think it's time. My head kind of nods yes, and I say, yeah, this is good. This makes a lot of sense. This is good for everybody, hopefully. I don't get the Wicked Witch is dead kind of a feeling. I'm not elated or overjoyed. It feels like a pretty decent time. There have been some good times with Mark Shapiro. There have obviously been some very disappointing ones as well. In the end, I would say that there haven't been enough good times to justify wanting to keep him around, or there haven't been enough good times that I'm feeling really bad about the fact that he's leaving. And even if the Indians replace him with somebody who's far worse and somebody who has no idea what they're doing, this is kind of the right time. It's the right time in the Indians' development. Things were disappointing this year, but I think everybody's still very encouraged by what the Indians have on their roster and who they have sitting there in terms of pitchers and position players, and even down into the minors. And it's been a while since we've been able to say that. And so if Mark Shapiro is going to leave and leave on the best possible terms, it had to be a time like now. If he leaves when the Indians really fail and look like they've got no future, it looks like he's jumping ship or the team is being punitive. But this is just, a guy who's taking a higher profile job for more money after being here for a very, very long time. And I've had situations in my own work life with coworkers, and it's very hard to look at your own life with coworkers. But even, if you've worked for a big company, you've seen, the hierarchy of executives, and where sometimes an executive rises up the ranks and rises and rises and rises, and then it kind of hits a plateau and the organization gets stale between, the VPs of the various regions, and one gets promoted and one or two end up leaving and going to different companies or on to different industries. And the shakeup is sometimes the best part in terms of moving forward. And it seems like this might be the right time for everybody to move forward, because the Indians had gotten stagnant. And regardless of the job that Mark Shapiro had done, the message from him and the sales job that he was giving out of the front offices for the Cleveland Indians had gotten stagnant, and it wasn't working anymore. It was probably the only thing he knew how to sell with this ownership group, and he'd been doing it for so long that it would have seemed disingenuous maybe for him to pull a 180 and take it in a different direction, even if a different direction is what needed to be sold. So maybe now, finally, Cleveland Indians fans and the organization will get that new direction while having something of a basis to build off of, because this team does have something to build off of. I mean, they're not even completely out of the playoff race this year, as disappointing as this season has been. I think they're 4.5 games back or something as I speak this right now, and it's fine. It's all just fine. It's time. I think everybody's probably kind of relieved. Indians are 5 back. Everyone's just probably kind of relieved. Mark Shapiro is not a bad guy. It's not like he doesn't deserve another job. He's not Matt Millen, who should never work in a front office personnel department ever again. And of course, if you were waiting for next year this weekend, this morning, Sunday morning, we posted TD had, I think, 2,200 words talking about Mark Shapiro and whether it was time for stability or time for change. And TD, if you're going to listen to anybody who talks about the Indians and has an opinion on the tribe, I would beg you not to really care what I have to say as much as lots and lots and lots of other people. TD being one of those whose Indians' opinion I respect certainly above my own and above a great many others. And he goes and he talks about how long 23 years is, just how long a decade is in the sports world for any guy to have that job, and all the adventure that we've been on with Mark Shapiro and all the different coaches from Eric Wedge and Manny Acta to being named president and promoting Chris Antonetti and all the bad drafts, but then landing Terry Francona. And, in the end, I think TD kind of came to the same conclusion that I did, and maybe I just stole his conclusion. I don't know. I read it certainly before I cracked the mic here this evening to talk to you guys, but it was just probably the right time. It was a good opportunity for Mark Shapiro, and hopefully it's a good opportunity for the Cleveland Indians. And now that's really what we come down to now. What in the world are the Cleveland Indians going to do next? Are they going to try and promote Chris Antonetti to president? Is he at all qualified for that job? And that's not a shot at Chris Antonetti. That's me actively wondering aloud. I mean, what Mark Shapiro went on and did after not being the GM anymore in terms of managing the TV deals with Sports Time Ohio and getting that sold to Fox Sports and making over the stadium and doing all those kinds of deals, whether you liked it or not, the syntax that fell under his umbrella of responsibility, that's not exactly pure baseball stuff. That's not being a general manager. And just because Mark Shapiro was qualified to get that promotion from general manager to president doesn't mean that every general manager is capable of getting that promotion or even wants that promotion. Maybe Chris Antonetti wants to keep being a general manager. And so then you're left to wonder, what does Paul Dolan, what does ownership do to replace Mark Shapiro? Because as much as I think the timing is right and it's a good opportunity for Mark Shapiro, I think it's a really bad situation for the Dolans. This is somebody, one of the consistent voices they've had in the organization for 23 years. It's very hard. It's very hard to replace somebody like that. Certainly, I don't envy the Dolans and their job in replacing the guy. It's not fun. I mean, it's part of the gig. It's what they have to do. And I mean, I probably shouldn't feel too sorry for them because their lives are pretty good. Certainly their lives are, I think a lot of us would trade places with the Dolans, let's put it that way. But at the same time, that doesn't mean it's easy. A lot of us would have traded places with Randy Lerner too. We saw how miserable he was trying to replace anybody in the front office and hire coaches and do all those kinds of things. So I think the Dolans certainly can do better than that. They can jump over that 2-inch bar. But it's a little bit scary, for all the talks that I had over the years with Jacob, who was another Indians opinion that I respect greatly. But Jacob was kind of in the camp, well, be careful what you wish for when a guy like this is gone, because you don't know what kind of replacement you can get. And I'm to the point where I'm ready to face that replacement. But at the same time, this makes me a little bit nervous. I'm not going to lie. Change should always make you nervous. That doesn't mean that it's a bad scenario or it's the wrong thing to be happening. But it just means that change is scary. You don't know the outcome, and not knowing the outcome is always a scary proposition. So the Indians move on. Actually, Mark Shapiro moves on from the Indians, moves on from us. It's going to be a real relief, probably, if he gets to just like shut down that Twitter account. And although I'm sure he hasn't read his app mentions in years anyway, but remember when the Indians said that he was going to be all over Twitter and stuff? Anyway, that's it. The Indians, Mark Shapiro. It's the end of an era, end of a chapter. I mean, if you really think about 23 years, and I know some of you are older than I am. I know some of you are younger than I am, but 23 years, I'm 36. So that means that Mark Shapiro's been involved with the Indians since I was 13 years old, pretty much since I was a fan. I mean, I was a very, very minor Indians fan before Jacobs Field and before they got good. I collected baseball cards, so I had a lot of baseball cards from the Indians, but I didn't watch a ton of their games. Certainly didn't attend a lot of their games until they became good. It was reserved to card shows and autographs and things like that, which is really funny when you think about it. Didn't watch the games, but collected the cards and the autographs. It's like, well, what are the cards and autographs worth if you're not watching the games? But that's, my young mind, that's how it all worked. And so we'll see. The other thing that I'm going to talk about tonight, which you might be listening this morning, it might be Monday morning. I told you that we couldn't learn anything from the Browns preseason, and I still mostly stand by that, but I'm wrong. I was wrong about one thing. There's one thing you can learn from the preseason, and we certainly learned it as the Browns routed the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Saturday night, and that is whether a guy's healthy or not. We learned that Travis Benjamin is healthy and confident. I mean, we are talking about a guy who not only was coming back from an ACL surgery in 2014, the 2014 season, he had the surgery in the 2013 season, but he was only 8 months removed from the surgery or whatever. And we saw a guy who was not only not healthy, but he lost all confidence. Remember, he was muffing punts. He couldn't catch them cleanly. He couldn't do anything right. His decision making was even off. His overall confidence was just gone. And part of that is probably coming back from a knee injury and not having confidence physically, and then having that leak into the mental part of your game. But what we've seen, and I think this is something you can actually rely on in the preseason, what we've seen with Travis Benjamin is that dude is feeling good about his limbs. He is feeling super confident about his legs, because the way he not only caught the ball, got his head up, went untouched, looked super fast, going 53 yards for a punt return touchdown. I mean, that you never would have bet on that. Never would have bet on that based on what we saw last year, because he looked like a shell of what he'd been his rookie season. He looked like a shell of what he'd been early on, and he's back. He's back. He's healthy. There's very little doubt that he's going to be one of the receivers that makes this team, and it's encouraging. It's really encouraging. Travis Benjamin looks good. Taylor Gabriel looks good. Brian Hartline looks like everything that we hoped he could be. Andrew Hawkins looks good. Dwayne Bowe doesn't look good yet, but he's definitely going to make the team. And so that's quite a numbers game. You know, you got Bowe, Hawkins, Hartline, Gabriel. How did I forget his name already? But you're up to 5. You're up to 5 receivers already. And so the Terrell Pryor situation, it just all the numbers are starting to come together. We're going to have to start doing some mock 53-man rosters here, because the Browns are going to have some tough decisions to make, and some of the guys that they cut this year, this is going to be one of those years where they're going to lose guys. Guys are going to go to other teams and make 53-man rosters. That hasn't happened a lot for the Indians in the past, but this is going to be one of those years. One of those years. All right, last but not least, the Cleveland Cavaliers. What's to say about the Cleveland Cavaliers? No, what's to say about the Cleveland Cavaliers is just that I'm already kind of missing them. I can't remember the last time I was this hyped about an NBA season this early, even before the Browns. I mean, I'm a Browns first guy, and I don't even expect the Cavaliers to kind of hit the ground running to start the season. I expect them to start a little bit slow and maybe get used to their new roster. I look forward to a whole new round of Fire David Blatt commentary over the first 10 games or so. It should be a blast. No, but really, I got some access to some seats this year, and I don't think I've ever been this excited for any professional Cleveland sports team in my entire life. And I know that's like a really obvious thing, but I'm even more excited than I was at the beginning of last year, and I was pretty much bought in back then. So I know that's kind of like a hack segment on the Cavaliers. Like, hey, I'm really excited. Hey, everybody, I'm really excited about the Cavaliers. Are you excited about the Cavaliers? I'm excited about LeBron James because he's exciting. It's really dumb. It was really dumb. But sometimes even your dumbest thoughts about sports, because they're so prevalent in your mind. And this, like, I wake up thinking about the Cavaliers in the NBA season, and that's really wacky because, as you all know, I wasn't that guy. All right, so that's the podcast, the Mark Shapiro is Gone podcast, and your feedback is on I want your nervousness level on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is super duper nervous, like Browns in the fourth quarter playing defense with Peyton Manning leading the comeback. Nervous. 1 being not nervous, 10 being completely nervous. How nervous are you for the next president of the Cleveland Indians, the next front office? And what, on 1 to 10, how nervous are you? I'm about a 6, maybe a 7. All right, I'm going to say I'm a 7. I'm a 7 nervous, even though I'm not unhappy that Mark Shapiro is leaving. I'm not celebrating, but I'm not unhappy. My nervousness level is a 7. I wonder what nervousness level Paul Dolan has right now. That's the real question. Anyway, that's your feedback at WFNY Craig on Twitter, the WFNY podcast page on Facebook. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. We got some guests this week. I don't want to jinx anything, and I really mean it this time. I actually have a guest this week, assuming it doesn't fall out. So Stay tuned. Thanks for listening. Spread this around. Tell a friend because it's free. They'll enjoy it. Thanks for listening. It's been the waitingfornextyear.com podcast.
Waiting for next year.